She wasn't supposed to be here. Not in this world, not in this story, not anywhere near the male lead. But she is. And a bleeding child just changed everything. Charlotte Lana died getting hit by a truck. Classic isekai entry. Zero dignity. She didn't even get a dramatic last moment. Just a truck, a flash of light, and then nothing. Except it wasn't nothing. She woke up inside the body of a baron's daughter in a world straight out of the romance fantasy novel she'd just finished reading. The Duke's contract wife. And here's the thing she immediately checked. Is she the female lead? The villain? A tragic supporting character? None of the above. She's a minor noble who never appeared in the story even once. The original Charlotte Lana existed completely off the plot's radar. No destiny, no dramatic arc, no suffering required. She was so relieved she could have cried. 3 years pass. She lives quietly as an ordinary noble. No involvement with the main story. No disasters. Just a normal life on the sidelines of a plot she already knows the ending to. That plan lasts right up until she walks into a forest and finds a small boy sobbing alone. He's standing in the middle of the trees, completely lost, asking for help. Charlotte almost keeps walking. She's a kind person, but she's also a person who has specifically chosen to stay as far away from this novel's plot as possible. Then the boy turns around. His clothes are soaked in blood, dark red, everywhere. Her eyes land on the symbol embroidered on his coat, and her heart stops. The Heinst family crest. She knows that crest. She knows exactly who this child is. Theodor Heinst, younger brother of Carol Heinst, the male lead. And she knows something else, something that freezes her feet to the ground. In the original novel, Theo was supposed to die here. A man named Caesar appears from behind the trees, one of Carole's retainers, searching frantically. He's looking for the boy too. Charlotte stands there holding a crying, blood-soaked child and makes a decision she cannot take back. She takes Theo home with her. Charlotte orders a doctor the moment they arrive. The maids stare in shock. She introduces Theo to her mother, explains that he was found injured and alone, and declares they'll shelter him until someone comes to claim him. Theo won't let go of her. He follows her everywhere. The moment she steps out of his sight, he panics. She's the only person he trusts in a house full of strangers, and he clings to her with the focused desperation of a child who has been very frightened and has decided she is safe. She bathes him. He loves it, splashing around, entirely delighted, like the blood and the forest and whatever happened before never occurred. She dresses him in tiny pajamas. He looks so absurdly adorable holding a stuffed toy that she almost forgets how worried she is. She offers to read him a bedtime story. His face lights up. She picks a tale about a wizard and his friend Celine, a story with a happy ending, reconciliation after hardship. She reads aloud and turns mid-sentence to check on him. He's already asleep, arms wrapped around the stuffed toy, face completely peaceful. Charlotte watches him breathe and feels something shift in her chest. She thinks about how glad she is she found him. Then she notices the unease. Even in sleep, he flinches when she moves too far away. He's surrounded by strangers. She's the only anchor he has. Then she notices the tattoos on his back. Heinst family members are tattooed from a young age. She knew that. But she also recognizes the specific pattern. It's the mark of a rosato. Her mind is starting to connect pieces she doesn't want to connect. A knock at the door interrupts her. Emma, one of her maids, with a worried face. Viscount Rotten is downstairs. He's already making a scene on the first floor, demanding to see Charlotte, smirking before she even walks into the room. The Charlotte family has debt. The Viscount holds it. His proposal? Charlotte marries him and the debt disappears. She declines, clearly without apology. His disappointment curdles into something uglier. He tells her she has 2 days to pay, or the interest compounds further. Then he raises his hand. Theo steps between them. This 4-year-old child plants himself in front of Charlotte, faces the Viscount, and detonates a magical barrier from sheer protective rage. It's uncontrolled, instinctive, completely beyond his conscious ability, and it slams into the Viscount like a wall. The man screams in pain. He threatens them both, warns Charlotte about the debt, gives her 2 days, and storms out furious and humiliated. Theo turns around and tells Charlotte he came looking for her because he missed her. They head to his room. He collapses before they get there. Charlotte catches him, prevents him from hitting the floor. She stays by his bedside even when the maids urge her to rest, and when the doctor arrives, the news isn't good. No explanation for the collapse. And as the night progresses, Theo's fever climbs. By the time the nanny calls Charlotte back to his room with a tearful voice, his fever has worsened to something dangerous. There's a possibility he won't make it through the night. Charlotte walks in already crying. Theo reaches up with a weak arm and tries to wipe her tears. He promises to protect her. His arm falls before he finishes the sentence. She holds him, tells him everything will be okay, cries herself to sleep next to him. She wakes up beside him. His fever has broken. Theo bounces back with the energy of a child who has absolutely no concept of how badly he scared everyone. He eats his pudding. He's cheerful and chatty and pleased with himself for surviving, though he wouldn't phrase it that way bit. Then a servant informs Charlotte that Duke Heinst has arrived at the mansion. She's read about Carolee Heinst. She knows exactly what the novel says about him. But nothing quite prepares her for the reality of the man standing in her entrance hall. Commanding, dark aura, the kind of presence that makes experienced servants press themselves against the walls. He doesn't look angry. He doesn't have to. He just exists in the room, and the room rearranges itself around him. The nanny tells Charlotte to retreat to her room and wait. Charlotte looks at Theo in her arms, looks at the empty entrance hall where her parents aren't, and walks downstairs with her chin up. She bows and introduces herself. Completely composed, her heart is doing something unhinged. Theo sees his brother and runs. The hug between them. Theo beaming with excitement. Caryle holding him like he's never letting go. Carries a weight that Charlotte can feel from across the room. This is a man who thought his brother was dead. Whatever mask he wears, in this moment it slips. Then Caryle's eyes find Charlotte over Theo's shoulder. Sharp. Focused. Exactly like the novel described. Like a wolf, assessing everything at once. He thanks her. Tells Theo it's time to go home. Theo refuses. Not diplomatically. Not with hesitation. With a full, committed, escalating refusal. Pushing Caryle away, insisting Charlotte comes too, crying when told she can't, crying louder when Caryle tries to reason with him, working himself up until he's completely hysterical and then, mid-tantrum, suddenly going absolutely still. Eyes open. Unresponsive. Just gone. Both Charlotte and Caryle freeze. Charlotte grabs his hand and shakes him. A faint light appears between her fingers. Caryle reaches out and takes her other hand. The same light appears from his palm. He stares at her. She stares at him. Neither of them says anything for a long moment. "What are you?" his eyes are asking. She doesn't have an answer yet. Theo eventually falls asleep. Properly, safely asleep. Carolee enters the room later and looks at Charlotte with an intensity she's starting to recognize as his default mode when he's thinking hard. She preemptively tells him she doesn't know what that light was. He asks her about a specific phrase, the term suitable person, the concept behind a Rosado needing someone to help them regulate mana. Charlotte pieces it together while he's asking the question. The Rosado, a rare type of person with inherited magic, capable of activating mana even without training. Their power comes from the first great mages, passed down through bloodlines. The problem, if their mana surges out of control, their body overheats. Without intervention, they can die from their own power exploding outward. That's what happened to Theo. When he created that barrier to protect Charlotte, his mana detonated inside him. That's the fever. That's the collapse. That's why the assassins who attacked him earlier didn't leave magical traces, because the explosion came from Theo himself. The blood on his clothes was from the aftermath, not a wound. The suitable person is someone whose presence calms a Rosado's mana, a rare ability, separate from normal magic. Charlotte looks at her own hand and thinks about every time she's touched Theo and watched him settle. She doesn't say any of this out loud yet, but Caryle is watching her face, and he's not a man who misses things. He proposes that Charlotte take on the role of acting duchess at Heinst Manor, present, official, able to be near Theo at all times until the boy learns to control his own power. Charlotte's first internal response. This is exactly where the novel starts. Her second. Penelope appears in about 6 months. Then Carolee won't need me. Her third. Theo still needs me right now. She asks for time to think. He gives it. The next day she says yes, but not without conditions. First condition, no marriage. Engagement only. A 5-year contract, formal and legal, with clear terms. She's deliberately building in an exit. The engagement period will expire right around when Penelope enters the picture, and Charlotte can bow out cleanly without anyone getting hurt. Or that's the plan. They discuss the engagement length. Carolee wants to move faster than standard protocol. Charlotte pushes back. Standard engagement is 1 year. She knows why 1 year works. It ends around the right time. She gets lost in the mental calculation mid-conversation. A hand touches her shoulder, pulling her back. She apologizes for drifting. Adds another condition, which Karila agrees to without debate. She signs the contract. New problem, her parents. Specifically her father, who is not interested in power or politics, and is absolutely going to be difficult about this. They need a cover story, a convincing one, built on something real. An idea, the national founding ceremony 3 years ago, where they both apparently were. They'll construct a love story from that encounter. Carolee takes a necklace from his coat and shows it to Charlotte, a secret only he knows about. Part of the story they'll tell. They shake hands. Deal made. Charlotte's father returns home that evening, and the Viscount shows up immediately after, because of course he does, smirking about his debt and the interest and his leverage. Charlotte hands him a check for the full amount, including interest. The Viscount's face goes through several stages of processing. He tears the check up, grabs Charlotte's father by the collar, starts threatening her directly. Carolee walks through the door, looks at the scene, looks at the Viscount, asks, completely calmly, what he's doing to his fiancée. The Viscount looks like he's been hit by the same magic barrier Theo accidentally deployed. His jaw actually drops. Charlotte's father's eyes go wide with a different kind of shock. Charlotte stares at Carile with a glare that communicates volumes. That was not the plan, and you know it. He knows. He did it anyway. The three of them sit down. The Baron starts asking careful, pointed questions. How did they meet? When? What are his intentions toward his daughter? Carolee, who apparently investigated the entire Lana family before this conversation, is surprisingly convincing. He'd learned everything. The debt, the Viscount's proposal, Charlotte selling her coming-of-age sapphire jewelry to help a child she'd just met, instead of using it to pay down the debt herself. His assistant had flagged that detail. She sold gifts from her parents just to protect a stranger. Why didn't she use that money for the debt? Because they were gifts. Because she protected them as long as she could. She has such a pure heart, the assistant had said. We must protect her at all costs. Carolee had immediately ordered his people to track down every sapphire piece she'd sold and retrieve them. He doesn't mention this at the table. Charlotte's last morning, she says farewell to her maids, spends time in every room of the house, memorizing details, the way the light falls in the kitchen, the sound of the garden. She embraces her parents. They cry. She tries not to, fails. When she meets Carile's carriage outside, her jewelry is waiting for her. Every piece, recovered and returned, she starts sobbing immediately, thanks him through tears, gets in the carriage. Theo falls asleep in her lap within the first hour. She watches him breathe in the dark and thinks about the strange coincidences, the flower pot that almost hit him, the near coking on cookies, every small disaster that seems to circle him. Could it be because he's a kid who wasn't supposed to survive, and now destiny keeps trying to correct itself? She watches his sleeping face and makes a silent promise. She'll protect him, not from obligation, not from the contract, just because he's small and frightened and he trusts her, and that trust means something. Theo mumbles her name in his sleep. She pulls him a little closer. The carriage stops in a forest. Carile gets out and holds his hand toward Charlotte. She takes it. When she opens her eyes, they're standing inside Heinst Manor grounds, arrived through a magical gate in the trees. Charlotte straightens up and tells herself, "This is the novel now. I'm in it. Stay focused." It's exactly as grand as she expected, and somehow still more overwhelming in person. Theo immediately grabs her hand and pulls her to his room to show it off. He presents her with a brown teddy bear. A gift from his brother, he says proudly. It looks familiar to Charlotte. She doesn't understand why yet. The household mage, arrives to heal the cut Charlotte got when she shielded Theo from the falling vase before leaving the Lana estate. He fixes her wound with practiced efficiency. Theo pats her head happily when it's done. Charlotte remembers, suddenly, the original novel. Penelope condensed her power into a magic stone. That's the key to protecting Cariel from his sealed mana. Charlotte needs to figure out how to do the same thing. She asks A to help her learn to control her power so she can make a protective stone. A agrees immediately, but since Theo is still awake and clinging to Charlotte, they agree to wait. Charlotte goes outside to give Theo space to sleep. Emma guides her to the room Heinst Manor has prepared for her. When the door opens, Charlotte and Emma both stop moving. The room is filled with dresses, jewelry, everything a duchess might need, provided without being asked. Emma is immediately enchanted. Charlotte is immediately uncomfortable. This is all for a role I won't be playing long-term, she thinks. Penelope is coming. This isn't really mine. She steps outside to clear her head, finds the butler Robert, and asks him to let her know when Carolee and his assistant Chase return. She also requests an audience with the saint, the priestess, as soon as possible. She needs to understand what's happening to Theo, why accidents keep finding him. Robert promises to arrange it within a week. A woman approaches her in the hallway, Irina Rayner, who manages the household in the absence of a real mistress. She offers to give Charlotte a tour. As they walk, Charlotte watches Irina and notices something: the way she interacts with Lord Chase when they pass him. Not like a servant and her employer's retainer. Like equals. Like people who know each other very well. Irina catches Charlotte's expression and laughs, tells her she and Chase are married. Charlotte blinks. I completely misread that dynamic. Irina, in turn, points out Charlotte's own unspoken marriage situation. Then she offers something more useful. She'll help Charlotte understand Carolee better. The Duke is not easy to read, and she's known him long enough to decode him. Charlotte files this away. In his office, his hands are bloody. Not metaphorically. Chase is with him, presenting a report and suggesting they eliminate the last witness. Kirill dismisses it. The person knows nothing, not worth the action. Chase pivots. There's a traitor inside the household. Someone has been feeding Kirill's location and plans to the people targeting Theo. Chase suggests involving Charlotte, who has already proven both capable and motivated. Kirill says no, flatly, without elaboration. Chase doesn't push. He understands, even if Kirill won't say it directly. Charlotte is connected to Theo's survival. Putting her in danger is not acceptable. After Chase leaves, Kirill sits alone and feels the pain that never fully goes away. The deep ache in his body that only quiets when he's in contact with Charlotte. He thinks about going to her room just to hold her hand for a moment. Then he thinks about how she's definitely asleep by now. He stays where he is. He lies to himself that this is the sensible choice and goes back to work. Charlotte figures out the spy situation on her own. She corners Celine, Carolee's personal escort, professional assassin, extremely competent, in a quiet corridor, and calmly informs her that she already knows about the 3 suspected maids: Ellie in the laundry room, Jessie in the kitchen, Hazel the lady's maid. Celine stares at her. Charlotte has done nothing dramatic. She's just standing there, politely certain, waiting. Celine is too stunned to deny it for more than a few seconds. She clearly didn't expect this. For all the warnings about the heartless Duke and the dangerous household, no one warned her about Charlotte. Charlotte proposes a plan. Simple, clean, feed different false information to each suspect through normal conversation, and see which lead gets acted on. Celine listens, processes, and acknowledges that Kirill is going to be furious when he finds out she told Charlotte anything. Charlotte promises to keep the revelation secret. On Carol's behalf, Celine emphasizes that his refusal to involve her comes from concern for her safety, not distrust. Even Celine, a professional assassin, can tell something is developing here. She finds it endearing against her better judgment. Charlotte's next move: Emma. Emma plays her role with remarkable composure for someone who was not expecting her week to include espionage. She goes to Ellie in the laundry room and points out a stain on Charlotte's dress. Mentions casually that Charlotte is planning to visit Lease Street with Theo tomorrow as a surprise. Could you wash this quickly? And please don't tell anyone? Ellie agrees readily, promises to be discreet. Emma moves to the kitchen, finds Jessie and requests a meal box be prepared. Charlotte wants to surprise the Duke with a picnic during an outing. Jessie is delighted by the assignment, agrees to tell no one. Charlotte handles Hazel herself, asks her advice on where to buy clothes for the Duke. Gets a recommendation for a store on Rooch Street. Emphasizes the secrecy of the surprise. 3 hooks set, 3 different locations fed as the destination. Charlotte creates a decoy, a teddy bear wrapped in cloth, made to look like Theo at a distance. With A's magic covering the illusion, she takes the decoy out in a carriage and waits. She's transported back to the mansion before anything happens. Theo immediately runs and hugs her. She holds him and thinks, Phase 1, complete. The first carriage is raided. Carolee's knights were ready. The spies are intercepted. Ellie is revealed as the traitor. She was feeding information to support her 6 siblings. Desperate. Not malicious by nature. Just out of options and making catastrophically wrong choices. Carolee doesn't stop at catching the maid. He traces the entire network, finds the assassin guild behind the attacks, identifies the mark they carry as belonging to the Dross Guild, follows the thread to their base. He and Celine go themselves. They burn it down. The guild leader dies without giving up his employer's name. All he says before the end is that Kirill holds too many grudges. Kirill returns to the mansion with documents and Celine's report that Charlotte knew about the operation. He goes directly to her room. She opens the door before he knocks. He notices immediately that she can't see a bloodstain on his wrist. He moves it behind his back. He asks about the plan. Celine told him Charlotte was involved. Charlotte denies having been involved in the specific carriage operation. Technically true, she set up the conditions and let Celine's people handle the execution. He can't quite tell if she's being evasive or honest. He tells her what could have happened if it had gone wrong. Asks about Theo. She realizes she should have thought more carefully about Theo's safety in the setup. She apologizes, promises to be more cautious. Karaili sighs in the specific way that means he's not actually angry. He's relieved it worked and exasperated it happened without him knowing. He asks how he can repay her. Charlotte looks at him, thinks for approximately half a second. Your private reading room, she says. He didn't expect that either. The reading room contains a specific book Charlotte has been looking for. She finds it, opens it. She can't read a single word. It's written in ancient language. She goes to A and asks him to translate it. A refuses. The book belongs to the Duke's private collection. He can't disclose its contents without permission. She asks who else can read the ancient language. The Duke himself, A says. He was taught from childhood. Charlotte processes this information, arrives at the obvious conclusion, goes back to Cariel. He agrees to read it to her. They sit in the reading room, and he reads aloud, working through pages while she listens and asks questions. The book covers the destined one, a person who overcame death. After surviving a life-threatening experience, their body changes. It becomes capable of suppressing mana. This is the suitable person, the one a Rosado needs. Carolee reads, pauses, and brings up Charlotte's fever 3 years ago, the one that nearly killed her. Perhaps, he says, almost thinking out loud, that's when you became the destined one. Charlotte listens to him work through this theory and thinks, the timing. Theo arrived at the Lana estate right after I recovered. Was that a coincidence? Or was I always going to be here for him? She doesn't say any of this. He finishes the relevant section and stands, offering his arm for the walk back to their quarters. She takes it. They walk in comfortable silence, and she wonders if meeting him was also inevitable, also woven in somewhere. Neither of them says anything about it. The corridor is quiet. His arm is steady under her hand. A knight dies. Karail's man. Someone in his service. Everyone wears black. Theo, who is 4 and doesn't understand death, asks Charlotte why everyone is dressed the same. She gently explains they're saying goodbye. At the cemetery, Karail stands beside the coffin in the rain, without an umbrella, completely still, completely expressionless, soaked through and showing nothing. Charlotte understands this. He was taught from childhood to hide grief, to perform composure whether or not he feels it, because a duke doesn't mourn publicly. No one offers him comfort because no one feels permitted to, and he doesn't want commanded sympathy. So he stands alone in the rain, with his grief locked somewhere interior, and lets the water soak his clothes. Charlotte watches him, and something in her chest aches. Then Theo, who still doesn't fully understand what's happening, asks Karail if the knight is asleep. Karail looks down at his brother's innocent face, and something flickers in his expression. He tells Theo to say goodbye. Charlotte pulls out her handkerchief, offers it to Karail, claims it's to shield from the hot sun. It's raining. He knows, she knows it's raining. He takes her hand where the handkerchief is, holds it. Not the handkerchief, her hand. His grip says something words can't. Then he looks at the embroidered pattern on the fabric and goes very still. He asks if she made it herself. She says yes. He takes it and leaves immediately. Goes straight to his office, opens a drawer, inside, another handkerchief. Same exact pattern, same flowers. He's had it for 2 years. He sits and stares at it for a long time. Days pass peacefully. Charlotte and Theo share muffins. She thinks about why Carolil kept her handkerchief but didn't use it, decides not to dwell on it. Theo asks about magic lessons, recounts his last session with visible pride, declaring himself the best mage. Charlotte lets him have this. A woman named Celine, Charlotte's assigned escort and, Charlotte is increasingly aware, a professional assassin in elegant disguise, walks in carrying a box of sweets. She's getting fond of Theo, visibly, despite the professionalism. She mentions, casually, that Karail is training in the gym if they want to watch. At the gym, Karail is practicing with a sparring partner. He moves with the kind of precision that comes from years of making every motion efficient, clean, decisive, beautiful in the way dangerous things sometimes are. Charlotte watches him defeat his partner without particularly trying and has several thoughts she refuses to finish. Carolyle notices her, raises an eyebrow. Theo waves at his brother enthusiastically. Carolyle approaches, wiping sweat from his face, and Charlotte realizes she's been staring at his shoulders. Celine notices Charlotte's cheeks turning red and asks, very innocently, if she's feeling warm. It's nothing, Charlotte says. She doesn't convince anyone. Carol lifts Theo to watch him fence. Theo grabs a stick to mimic the movements, swinging it with full commitment. In the resulting chaos, Carolee and Charlotte both reach for Theo simultaneously, and their hands brush stocks. Then a wooden sword careens across the training yard toward Theo's head. Carolee snatches Celine's sword mid-air and deflects it in one motion. Charlotte, heart still recovering, tells him they need to visit the priestess. Now. She gives no specific reason. She can't say because in the original novel your brother dies and I don't know if my interference fixed everything. She just says she's concerned. Carolee arranges the carriage immediately. The temple is beautiful. Sunlight through colored glass, the goddess of destiny rendered in 3 forms. One who untangles fate, one who weaves it, one who judges it. A young woman named Teresa introduces herself. Theo is immediately convinced she's an angel. He's not wrong about the energy. When Teresa looks at Charlotte, her expression changes. She controls it quickly, tells Charlotte she was briefly mistaken about something, don't worry about it, but Charlotte catches the flash of recognition and files it away. Teresa takes Theo's hands to give him a blessing, kisses his forehead. He falls instantly, deeply asleep. Charlotte screams. Teresa assures her this is normal, that he'll wake up better than before. Carlyle carries the sleeping Theo, while Charlotte continues eyeing the priestess with specific concern. Teresa asks to speak with Charlotte alone. In a private room, Teresa drops the gentle expression. She explains what she found when she checked Theo. His thread of fate was almost severed. That's why danger keeps finding him. He survived something he was fated not to, and the world keeps trying to correct the imbalance. She strengthened his thread with the goddess's blessing. It should hold. Then she asks Charlotte why she's in this world. Charlotte considers lying, decides against it, tells the full truth, the accident in another dimension, the truck, the darkness, waking up in this body. The original Charlotte's soul had already departed. They occupied the same vessel in sequence. Teresa listens without surprise, tells Charlotte her thread of fate is made of 2 strands, 2 different strings, different colors, joined at a specific point. She'll never know when they might separate. Charlotte processes the implication. Is that death? Teresa doesn't say no. Before Charlotte can ask more, the priestess gives her a blessing. A gentle kiss on her hand, strengthening the thread, warns her to be careful. Then, as Charlotte opens the door wider to leave, Teresa simply isn't there anymore. Charlotte stands in the doorway of an empty room and thinks, what is happening to my fate? Back in the carriage, Carlyle tells Charlotte to stay calm. There's trouble. She has no idea what to do with her hands or her body or her fear, so she sings a children's song. Her voice shakes. Her body shakes. She holds Theo against her chest and sings anyway. Carlyle handles whatever is outside. She doesn't ask for details. The carriage eventually moves again, and then they're home. And Charlotte's legs are cooperating just barely. Emma asks if she's all right. She collapses. She dreams of being lost, calling for help. A hand finds hers in the dark. He's still there. In the middle of everything else, Theo gets picky about his vegetables at dinner. He looks at a pea with the specific expression of a small aristocrat who did not agree to this arrangement. Charlotte watches him push it aside and has a thought. She goes to Robert the butler, proposes, let Theo grow his own vegetables. The experience of farming, the work, the care, the watching something grow, might make him less inclined to waste what's already on his plate. Robert listens, tells her she'll need the Duke's approval for something like that. Charlotte is prepared to wait as long as necessary. She waits until very, very late at night, when Carlyle finally returns. Then she goes directly to his office. He's surprised to see her. His workspace is buried in paper. She takes one look at the state of it and hesitates. Has he eaten? She tells him she's hungry. It's late, they should both eat, and asks Robert to prepare something simple. While waiting, she brings up the farming idea. Carlyle likes it, agrees immediately, offers to have the gardeners prepare everything. Food arrives. Charlotte eats approximately a third of what's on her plate. When she leaves, Carlyle looks at the portion she didn't touch and understands immediately. She staged this entire dinner to make sure he ate something. He sits alone in his office and notices, quietly, that when she was here, the room felt different. And now that she's gone, it feels empty in a way it didn't before. Since when, he thinks, had he been feeling this way? Theo wakes Charlotte up before sunrise, bouncing on her bed with the energy of someone who has been waiting patiently for at least 4 minutes and has run out of patience entirely. He wants to go farming. Now. The sun is coming up. Now. Charlotte makes a deal. He sleeps with her until actual sunrise, and then they go. He agrees. He falls back asleep in approximately 30 seconds. When they do reach the garden, Theo runs ahead and stops cold. The seeds he planted yesterday have grown. Overnight, little seedlings are standing in neat rows, already several inches tall. His face lights up with pure joy. He runs between them, checking each one. Charlotte watches him and allows herself to feel the satisfaction of a plan that worked. The night before, after Theo was asleep, she'd gone back to the gardeners. She knew Theo would be devastated to find bare soil in the morning. Seeds don't grow overnight, and his excitement was too high to survive that disappointment. She'd asked the gardeners to replace each seed with a seedling during the night. It took hours. They did it because she asked nicely, and because Theo is apparently impossible not to want to protect. Later that afternoon, Caerle comes to find Theo and stops at the garden's edge. Theo and Charlotte are eating tomatoes in the dirt. Theo is explaining something with great enthusiasm. Charlotte is listening with her full attention. Something about the image catches Caerle mid-step. He remembers his mother walking in this same garden carrying baby Theo. The warmth of those days, before she got sick, when the estate felt like it was full of life. After she died, it was like spring stopped coming. The garden kept growing, but something was gone from it. He's been looking at the same garden for 2 years and not seeing anything. Now he's seeing Charlotte and his brother eating tomatoes in the dirt, and something in his chest is doing something strange. Theo runs over and offers fresh tomatoes. Caerle takes one. He moves closer to Charlotte. She looks up at him with those wide eyes she gets when she's surprised. He reaches out and touches her hair, just the tips of his fingers, light as anything. I want to hold her, he thinks, so she can't leave. The thought arrives fully formed and he lets it sit there for a moment. Charlotte calls his name, waiting to see what he's doing. He finds a leaf in her hair and holds it up as explanation, uses it as the excuse to step back. She looks after him with her hand pressed against her heart, trying to slow it down. The leaf was an excuse. Both of them know this. Neither of them says so. Charlotte receives a letter from her brother Isaac. She opens it with genuine anxiety and finds exactly what she expected. Isaac and Jake have processed the engagement news and have feelings about it. Jake's feelings are louder. Isaac's are more carefully worded, but arrive at the same destination. What is happening, and can we meet? She writes back. Tells them they're not coming to her. She'll host them at Heinst Manor. The next day, 2 blue-haired men arrive, Isaac and Jake Renea. They look composed. They are not. Jake starts making a scene within 30 seconds of stepping through the door, shouting about Charlotte being held against her will, demanding to see his sister. Isaac is trying to manage him and barely succeeding. Charlotte walks out. Inside, Jake continues. He calls Charlotte foolish in multiple ways, points out her age, implies she's lost her mind. Charlotte doesn't back down, points out that women her age get engaged all the time. They argue, like siblings who've spent their whole lives doing exactly this. Then Theo wades in. 4 years old, completely serious, comes to Charlotte's defense, gets into a squabble with Jake instead. Isaac produces expensive chocolates, the universal currency of small children, and offers them to Theo in exchange for giving the adults privacy. Theo accepts the transaction and goes with Emma, satisfied. Alone with her brothers, Charlotte tells them the real story, about the founding ceremony, the rain, the toy store, the hood, the handkerchief. She tells it as the story of meeting a stranger who needed comfort, not as the story of meeting a duke. Jake doesn't believe a word. Charlotte stops arguing and simply says, I like him. Jake goes quiet. Isaac stands up, looks at his sister for a moment. Then he tells her that it's her choice, and if she ever wants to come home, they'll come get her. No questions asked. The door is always open. They leave, slightly calmer. On their way out, Isaac mentions they'll see her soon at the martial arts competition. In the greenhouse, Charlotte embroiders while Theo and Danny play nearby. Irina watches with the knowing expression of someone who has been waiting to ask something. Why are you embroidering all of a sudden? Charlotte explains, handkerchiefs for her brothers as gifts for the competition. Irina asks, are you making one for the Duke? Charlotte says he won't be competing, so she hadn't thought to. They talk about the competition. Charlotte says she won't be going. She can't take Theo to an event that large, and she can't leave him either. Too many unknown risks. Irina files this away and moves on. That evening, Arena arranges a private dinner. Charlotte, Karile, and herself. 3 people at a table, which Charlotte finds immediately suspicious. Karile arrives and notices the unusual configuration, eats without mentioning it. Arena asks about his plans for the founding ceremony. He says he'll stop by briefly to encourage his knights, then return to paperwork. Arena tells him that's unacceptable. His fiancée will be lonely. This is their first founding ceremony since they reunited. He should spend time with her. Charlotte tries to say she'll be fine. Carolee agrees to Arena's suggestion. Arena considers her work done. In the hallway afterward, a maid named Hazel intercepts them. She's staring at the pattern on Charlotte's handkerchief with recognition. She's seen that exact pattern before. On a handkerchief the Duke has been keeping for a long time. One he treats carefully, one his attending maid Annie washes by hand on specific instructions. Arena, who has been listening, goes very still. After Hazel leaves, Arena looks at Charlotte with a complicated expression, then goes directly to Caral's office. "You've been keeping another woman's handkerchief," she tells him. Flat. Not a question. Carolee asks how she and Charlotte could possibly have known about it. The answer to this question is apparently not the point Arena wants to engage with. She storms out, declaring she won't help him if Charlotte decides to break off the engagement over this. Charlotte, standing in the hallway having heard everything, turns the information over in her mind. 2 years ago, a handkerchief, the toy store, the rain. Was that him? The founding ceremony arrives. Carolee comes with them, as promised. The town is crowded and bright, and Theo is absolutely vibrating with excitement. Every stall, every sound, every light gets his full attention. They move through it together, 3 people making their way through a festival crowd, and Charlotte thinks for a moment that this is what ordinary looks like. Simple and warm and exactly right. But the question keeps surfacing, was that him 2 years ago? She doesn't push it, forces herself to enjoy the day. They enter a shop Theo points at. Charlotte recognizes the woman behind the counter immediately, the kind shop owner who let her take shelter from the rain during the founding ceremony 2 years ago. The woman recognizes Charlotte and lights up. Then she sees Karile and Theo. Her face changes. She asks Charlotte if she's married to him. Charlotte says no, he's just someone she knows, and she's been caring for Theo because the child is fond of her. Then a pickpocket causes a commotion in the street. Karile excuses himself and goes after the thief. Charlotte and Theo stay in the shop. The woman, now alone with Charlotte, starts talking. The man who came in 2 years ago, the hooded man who bought the teddy bear with Charlotte's help, came back to the shop last winter, looking for Charlotte. The woman told him she hadn't seen her. She asked him who he was. He left without answering. And the second time he came, Charlotte thinks the first time was rain, so a hood made sense. The second time, he covered his face deliberately. He came back looking for her and didn't want to be identified. Carolee returns. Charlotte thanks the woman and moves Theo toward the door. Before she can leave, the woman asks if Charlotte might be interested in meeting her son. That won't happen, Karile says. We're engaged. The woman goes pale. Charlotte, once they're outside and walking, makes her feelings about this development known through approximately 45 seconds of silence that communicates clearly. You could have let me handle that. He felt it was necessary. The evening passes. They find a spot on the grass to watch the fireworks. Theo is so excited to finally see them that he falls asleep before they start. The fireworks begin. Charlotte watches with her eyes wide, genuinely stunned by them. Colors she didn't know to expect. The kind of beauty that makes you stop thinking. Carolee turns toward her and holds out a handkerchief. She takes it, looks at it. Her embroidery, her pattern, the one she made herself, the one he's kept for 2 years. The sky was wrong that day, heavy and gray, a bad feeling he couldn't name. He'd just been told his mother wouldn't survive past autumn. He was supposed to be conducting a state business but found himself walking without direction. Theo's upcoming birthday a background thought, the weight of everything pressing down. He went into a toy store. There was a girl inside with a warm voice and a face full of uncomplicated happiness. She helped him choose a teddy bear for his brother, without asking why he needed it or what was wrong. She was just present, steady, like she belonged exactly where she was. When he left, she ran after him through the rain. She pressed a handkerchief into his hands and told him everything would be okay. He didn't know her. She didn't know him. She ran through a rainstorm to give comfort to a stranger who hadn't asked for any. It felt like something changed in him at that moment, like a door opened that he'd forgotten existed. He kept the handkerchief. Under the fireworks, he tells her this. Not the whole story at once, Just that he recognized her at the funeral when she gave him the second handkerchief. That he'd been looking for the woman from the toy store for 2 years. That it was her all along. Charlotte's cheeks are red. Her voice is very careful when she speaks. She tells him she thought about him on rainy days, that she wanted to see him again. Carola's eyes widened. The fireworks explode overhead, light flooding everything, and something explodes in him too. The certainty that whatever comes next is going to be completely different from everything that came before. A pink-haired woman finds Charlotte in the garden the next morning. She teases Charlotte about the honeymoon phase with the kind of cheerful ruthlessness that only close friends deploy. Charlotte turns red. Theo and Danny run over. Danny hugs his mother with full-body enthusiasm. Theo watches this. His face changes. Charlotte sees it. The thing he can't name, just the awareness of an absence. He runs to her and hugs her instead. That night, tucking him in, she picks a story about a mother rabbit and a baby rabbit. Theo cries so hard she initially thinks it's just the story. Then he looks up at her with red eyes and asks, "Why does Danny have a mommy and I don't? Why can't you be my mommy?" Charlotte holds him and feels the weight of the question. She takes him to the portrait room. She shows him the woman with blonde hair in the family portrait, his mother. Explains that when he was still very small, they had to say goodbye, that she's not here now, but she loved him very, very much. Theo cries, hugs Charlotte, cries harder. Charlotte stares at the portrait and notices, suddenly, a large blank space beside Karile's figure. She reaches toward it. Light blooms. A boy appears. Exactly Karile's face, younger, wearing a pendant with a name on it. Edgar Heinstock, Karile's twin. Dead 16 years. Charlotte knows this story. Marquis Patron wanted to eliminate the Rosado he believed was emerging in the Heinst family. Targeted Karile specifically. Took the wrong twin. Edgar died in Carol's place. When the truth came out, House Petran was destroyed. But Carol survived, and the guilt of surviving, of being the reason Edgar was taken, made his mana go completely out of control. To save him, his parents had Rwandro seal his memories. Not just of the guilt, of Edgar existing at all. Carile doesn't remember his brother. Charlotte stands in the portrait room with this knowledge and thinks about fairness and what it costs to protect someone by taking everything away instead. She can't tell him, not yet, maybe not ever. But she goes to his room. She tells him she showed Theo the portrait, that Theo missed his mother, that she thought seeing her face would help. She waits for his reaction, genuinely uncertain. He just asks if Theo liked it. Yes, she says. He really did. Before she leaves, he thanks her. Quietly, sincerely, for taking such good care of his brother. She walks out into the hallway. She still hasn't told him about Edgar. She doesn't know if she ever will. Later that night, Karile goes to Theo's room, watches his sleeping face, and thinks about what Charlotte said, that Theo missed his mother. He realizes he'd been avoiding the subject, telling himself it was to protect Theo from pain, understanding now that it was also to protect himself from having to face something he didn't have words for. He'd been a coward. Theo wakes up, sees his brother standing there, smiles. They talk about the portrait, about their mother, about how Theo is sad about missing her, but also okay, because he has both Carolee and Charlotte. He asks Carolee, "Are we going to live together for a long time?" Carolee pauses, then pats Theo's head and tells him the three of them are going to live together. Afterward, sitting with his sleeping brother, he thinks, maybe what I told him is what I want for myself. Maybe he's hoping that the woman who handed him a handkerchief in the rain will stay, permanently, and that her presence will mean something like, you don't have to be alone with this anymore. The next morning brings Rwandro, the household mage, the man who sealed Carolee's memories, arriving with a smile to examine Theo's mana. Charlotte has a bad feeling immediately. She knows who Rwandro is from the novel. He's described as loyal to Carolee, but loyalty can be complicated depending on who you think you're loyal to. Theo is scared of him, refuses to cooperate until Rwandro mentions chocolate, at which point Theo immediately cooperates. During the examination, a wave of energy moves through the room, strong enough that Charlotte feels it inside herself, which shouldn't be possible from across the room. Then, Rwandro grabs her hands. She pulls away, scared, unsure what he's doing. Robert the butler arrives and asks, with careful precision, what she saw in the portrait room. They're testing her. She recognizes it immediately. She smiles and says she saw the portrait of the late Duke and his wife and Carile. They press slightly. She maintains the smile and the ignorance. They leave. She turns around and asks Theo, "Do you remember seeing someone in the portrait, next to your brother?" Theo doesn't remember, but Charlotte does. Why does she remember and he doesn't? What did Rwandra's energy do, exactly? She needs to talk to another mage. Charlotte practices nullification magic with Sir A, the ability to dispel or absorb other magic. According to A, it should flow from her fingertips. It doesn't. The attempts go nowhere. She can feel the mana inside her but can't direct it into anything useful. A laughs it off, tells her to keep practicing. She tries not to show how frustrated she is. During dinner, Charlotte is distracted and everyone can tell. Theo notices. Caryle notices. Theo looks up and announces that they should all go look at the portrait. Maybe that will cheer her up. Charlotte is immediately worried. Caryle may not be ready for that. The portrait room, the family, the grief. She doesn't want to push him somewhere painful. Carolee agrees to go. In the portrait room, he stops at the door. He doesn't cross the threshold. Charlotte walks back to him and tells him quietly, "Don't rush. Some wounds need time. Forcing healing before it's ready makes things worse." He doesn't have to be brave on any particular schedule. She means it. She's looking at him with genuine concern. He looks at her for a long moment. Very close. The gap between their faces is minimal. "I'll be okay," he says, "as long as you're beside me." He walks past her into the room. Charlotte watches him move toward Theo and the portrait. Watches him look at his mother's face for the first time without flinching. Something is healing. Slowly. Not finished. But something. She thinks about Edgar. Still invisible. Still forgotten. Sitting in the dark on the other side of Caryle's sealed memory. The martial arts competition is approaching. Charlotte's brothers are competing. Theo wants to go. Charlotte decides they can all attend. In part because she hears that Priestess Teresa will be there. She needs to ask about her magic. The evening before, she does something that's been making her awkward for days. She gives Caryelle a handkerchief she embroidered herself, tells him it's for him, even though he won't be competing. She made one for each of her brothers, so she made one for him too. He thanks her, genuine and quiet. Then she asks, can she go to the competition? She wants to watch her brothers. But she's worried about Theo. Carol tells her not to worry. He'll protect both of them. She doesn't notice herself acting exactly like Theo's mother. Carol definitely notices. At the arena, Theo is experiencing the largest crowds of his life, and absolutely loves it. His face is a sequence of expressions, wonder, delight, excitement, as he tracks everything happening around him. Charlotte and Caryle watch him from slightly behind. Caryle feels something quiet and warm looking at the two of them. Then he sees a hooded figure moving through the crowd wrong. Not the movement of someone watching the competition, the movement of someone watching someone else. During Isaac's match, Caryle touches Charlotte's shoulder. Low voice. Take Theo. Go with Celine. Now. The door explodes. Smoke fills the arena. Panic. People flooding every exit at once. The doors won't open. The seals hold against everything. Against Celine's magic, against Sir A's attempts. Whoever put them there is stronger than anyone on their side. 4 people. 1 teleportation spell. It fits 2. Carolee tells A to take Charlotte and Theo. Charlotte hands Theo to A. Then she stays. Carolee turns around. You're supposed to... She cuts him off. Tells him he's important. That she won't leave him here alone. He stares at her. Something complicated crosses his face. Then a fireball comes for both of them. Carolee pulls her against him. Takes the hit. He's bleeding. His forehead. His hands. Guards down around them. The threat still active. Charlotte steps forward. She walks toward the next fireball. Blue energy erupts from her entire body. The magic dissolves. The threat dissipates. She collapses. She wakes up to Caryle looking down at her. Before she says anything, before she can compose herself, he pulls her into a hug. She starts crying immediately, asking about his injuries, checking his face with her hands. He tells her everyone is safe. Theo, her brothers, the people in the palace. He's been treated. She scared him. He holds her and doesn't let go. The priestess enters and gently relocates Carolee to the hallway. Then she sits with Charlotte and explains what she already suspected. Charlotte is the one who nullified the magic. Her power, when fully released, absorbed and destroyed a magical attack designed to level a building. She also reminds Charlotte about the fate thread, the 2 strands. Every time Charlotte uses that power, she risks snapping the connection between body and soul. Charlotte says she would use it again, without hesitation. If Theo were in danger, the priestess tells her to be careful if she wants to stay with her precious people. Charlotte nods. She hears the weight underneath it. Theo comes in while the priestess is still there and launches himself at Charlotte so fast, Emma barely gets out of the way. He wraps around her and holds on with everything he has. Not crying, just present, just refusing to let go. Emma is crying enough for both of them. Charlotte learns from Emma that A was crucial to her survival, that without his intervention, she might not have made it. She doesn't know how much was his work versus the priestess versus her own luck. She's just glad she's here. She asks where A is. Emma tells her he's with the Duke. Theo says his brother is angry. Emma adds quietly. In Carolee's office, he's asking A why the doors weren't opened before things escalated. A insists he tried, that the magic was beyond him, that he didn't deliberately avoid it. Carolee presses. A offers the Lord's oath. If I betray you, my heart stops immediately. No mage makes that offer lightly. Carolee goes quiet. Then his assistant arrives with the name of whoever is responsible. Maurice Fedaro, disciple of Rowandro, a brilliant mage, currently missing. Carolee looks at that name for a long moment. He tells his staff to begin moving everyone to the Heights mansion as soon as possible. Better magical protections. Harder to breach. That night, Theo is asleep beside Charlotte. He flinches in a dream, reaching for her. She's right there, holds his hand, tells him she's not going anywhere. He settles. Carolee comes to her room and asks how she's doing. Really. He's been thinking about her all day. Looking at her improved condition, he says he's relieved. He apologizes. The recent raid, the people targeting Theo, he knows someone referenced old grudges. He feels responsible for the pattern of violence following his household. Charlotte tells him, it's not his fault. He saved her. She won't let him carry this. His cheeks color slightly. She notices. Are you feeling sick? I'm fine. They end up in a mild argument about whether he's been taking care of himself, which devolves into Charlotte claiming he's mocking her capability, which he denies, which wakes Theo briefly, who immediately starts sleep-talking about wanting snacks before falling back into full sleep. Both of them stop arguing and look at the sleeping child and quietly start laughing. Someone hides a magic stone inside a cat and sends it into Theo's room through the window. The cat plays on Theo's sympathy about its missing mother. Theo, whose mother is also dead, opens the window without hesitation. The moment the cat enters the room, it jumps toward Theo and the magic stone activates on contact. Red mana floods outward. The entire room fills with it. Visible, crackling, too strong for the servants to push through. Too strong for Canaille to force the door open. He burns his hands on the handle trying. Charlotte opens it with her power on the first attempt. They run in together. The room is on fire with Theo's exploding mana. Blue flame everywhere. Walls shaking, the air itself feeling unstable. Sir A casts protective spells on both of them before they enter. They call for Theo. He answers from the corner, crouched against a cabinet, crying, telling them it hurts. Charlotte reaches him first and wraps herself around him. She channels everything she has into calming the explosion. It doesn't work. She keeps trying. Theo keeps saying it hurts. The mana keeps climbing. Carolee wraps his arms around both of them. The mana starts to quiet. Charlotte feels her engagement ring glowing, the same color as Carel's energy. She watches the two frequencies meeting and realizes it needs both of us, together. After a few minutes, Theo is calm. The fire dies down. Carel asks Charlotte if she's hurt. She looks up at him and smiles. He hugs her again. The investigation that follows confirms what Charlotte suspected. The cat was deliberately sent. The magic stone contained a transmission spell. Whoever sent it now knows Charlotte is a suitable person. She's a direct target. That night, Carail finds her in Theo's room watching the sleeping child. He tells her what the investigation found, tells her plainly that she's in danger now, specifically because of her ability, specifically because someone is hunting for that ability. She looks at him, takes his hand, tells him she knew this was part of it when she signed the contract. She's not running. He kisses her hand. I'll protect you, he says. Even if it means... He stops there, doesn't finish the sentence. She knows what comes after even if. She doesn't let the silence grow. They relocate to the Heights mansion, the ancestral home, with older and stronger magical protections built into the walls. Rowandro greets them in the entrance hall with warmth. Charlotte is politely reciprocal and gives nothing away. When she and Theo move to get settled, Carile turns to Rowandro and asks, directly, where is Morris? Rowandro explains that Morris, his young disciple, has been searching for a suitable person, acting on orders from the late Duke. He hadn't anticipated things unfolding this way. The implication, Rowandro has been managing this situation according to his previous instructions, not Carile's. Carile asks Rowandro a question that's also an ultimatum. Who do you serve, me or my father? Rowandro doesn't have an immediate answer. Morris, meanwhile, is walking through the estate grounds, complaining to himself about why Rowandro wants to speak with him again. He rounds a corner into the garden and finds Theo and Charlotte. He assumes Charlotte is a new tutor. When he introduces himself, Theo hides immediately behind Charlotte's skirt. Charlotte asks if he knows Morris ignores the question, because he's too busy being struck by how beautiful Charlotte is. He grabs her hand, asks if they can be friends. Carolee appears behind him. The temperature of the scene drops approximately 15 degrees. Rowandro materializes to introduce Charlotte as the Duke's fiancée. Morris processes this information, looks at his own hand, and wishes intensely that he could go back approximately 45 seconds. In the meeting that follows, Carolee asks Morris directly about the martial arts competition incident. Morris denies involvement. Carolee tells him they've already found the culprit. Plans to execute him. Morris kneels. Insists it wasn't him. Carolee produces a sealed magical box, enchanted to only be opened by someone matching A's power level. If Morris can open it, he's the one. Morris tries and fails. Rowandro suggests the Lord's Oath. Carolee waves it off, tells them both to leave. Then he stops Morris at the door. He wants to know about Morris's search for the suitable person. The specific parameters, someone who has experienced death without actually dying. Morris mentions something new. I'm not the only one searching. Someone else is looking for the suitable person. Carolee goes still. Another Rosado? Morris says he'll investigate. Mentions one name he's already flagged. Penelope Hen, who nearly died 7 years ago. Carolee notes this as a lead, and tells Morris to look into it. Before Morris leaves, Carolee tells him in the most pleasant possible voice, "If you appear in front of Charlotte again, I'll consider it a personal offense." Morris agrees to this with significant speed. After he leaves, Carolee sits alone and feels a pain in his chest. The anniversary of his mother's death is approaching. Theo notices Carolee has stopped eating dinner with them. Charlotte tells him the Duke is busy. Emma tells her privately that it's the anniversary. His mother. He shuts down around this time of year. Charlotte looks at the table, at Theo's worried face, at the food that's been prepared. "All right," she says. She picks up the entire dinner and brings it to Cariole's room. She walks in and informs him that since he isn't eating, they've brought dinner to him. Theo sits beside his brother and waits. Cariole says he's not hungry. Charlotte says she's not eating either. Then, "You have to eat. So do you." He looks at her. She looks at him. Theo watches this exchange with great interest. Carolee picks up his utensils. Theo immediately declares victory by proxy and starts eating with enthusiasm. Later, Charlotte tries to keep conversation light, asks about tomorrow's menu, suggests dishes Theo might like. She stays long enough to confirm he's eating properly, then leaves before overstaying. Carolee watches her go and thinks about the word she used, friend. She called him a friend. He turns the word over in his mind and finds it doesn't fit the way she means it. The anniversary comes rain. Everyone attends the ceremony at the cemetery. Charlotte goes, bringing Theo, sending him to Emma when they arrive so she can stay near Carolee. He stands in the rain, no umbrella, expressionless, not shaking. Charlotte stands beside him. She doesn't know what to say. There's nothing that seems right. She just stays. In the rain, without leaving. He tells her to go be with Theo, that it's raining heavily. She starts crying, tells him it's something in her eye. He looks at her sideways. She tells him that rainy days can be painful, that no one would blame him for feeling that it's okay to cry, there's no shame in grief. Not falling, choosing. He presses his face against her and wraps his arms around her and lets himself be held. They stand like that in the rain, neither speaking. Afterward, they sit together in the wet. Neither says anything for a while. When their eyes meet, Charlotte looks away immediately. He thanks her. She says it's nothing. That this is what friends do. He asks if she really thinks they're just friends. She starts to explain. She thought that was the right framing. She thought. He takes her hand, places it against his chest, over his heart. Is that really what you think we are? Charlotte can't speak. She doesn't answer, but she doesn't take her hand back either. Back in her room, Charlotte sits with her face in her hands, thinking about the warm weight of his chest under her palm. Focus, she tells herself. The magic stone. Penelope. The contract. Focus. She can't focus. She thinks about Penelope, who is supposed to be the one making the magic stone. Who is supposed to be the one helping Carolee, who Charlotte is essentially filling in for. She thinks about how, in the original story, the seal on Carolee's power breaks when Theo dies. Theo hasn't died. The timeline has completely shifted. She has no idea anymore what's coming. She decides to practice the magic stone again, concentrates hard, gets it close to completion. It dissolves. She's frustrated with herself. She sits with that frustration and tries to think differently about the problem. What's different about when it worked versus when it doesn't? She doesn't have the answer yet. Theo comes in, finds her in the middle of magic practice, immediately hugs her. He's been watering the garden, he reports. He's excellent at it. He's clearly lying about having watered the garden. She asks him what he wants. He asks her, if she could have anything, what would it be? Yellow flowers, she tells him. The kind that grow back home in Rana. He asks if those are the flowers on her handkerchief. Yes. He nods very seriously and leaves the room. She watches him go and wonders what he's planning. Charlotte goes to find Morris. She's tried every other approach to the magic stone. He's the only one left who might understand the mechanics of what she's doing differently. Morris sees her coming and tries to leave. Trips and falls instead. She crouches down beside him and asks if he's all right, then tells him he's the only one who can help. He asks what kind of help. He listens. He explains that magic should flow from her fingertips, that there's a method that involves physical contact. But if he helps her that way and the Duke finds out, he will be executed. Charlotte says Carolyle wouldn't do that. Morris gives her a look that says he has personally witnessed evidence to the contrary. She grabs his hand anyway and tells him to show her the method. Theo is watching from the bushes. 20 minutes later, Theo is in Carolay's office, delivering a full report with the appropriate level of indignation. Morris has snowy hair, Theo says helpfully. Carolay immediately knows who it is. He goes to find Charlotte. He walks into Charlotte's magic practice session, slams the door behind him, and Charlotte is immediately certain she did something wrong, and this is about to be a long conversation. Then he turns around and says, "Follow me." They walk to the greenhouse. He opens the door. Yellow flowers. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Every variety native to Rana, every bloom from her hometown, transported across the empire through magical gates and an enormous amount of effort on someone's behalf. The air smells like home. Charlotte's eyes fill immediately. He shows her a box. He opens it. A ring. Custom, specific, chosen for her. He tells her, however this started, he knows how it feels now. He knows what it meant when she said everything will be okay on that rainy day. He'd never heard those words before, didn't know he needed them. Now he knows that whatever comes, whatever unbearable days arrive, it will be bearable if she stays. He asks her to stay. Charlotte looks at him and the flowers and the ring and says no. She apologizes, tells him someone else was supposed to be here instead of her, that it's better for her to be his friend, someone who helps him through hard times without it becoming something more complicated. He looks at her for a long moment. Then he puts the box in her hands. "I can wait," he says, "however long it takes." He leaves her alone in the greenhouse, full of yellow flowers and a ring she can't keep, and a feeling she can't name. The mansion erupts into coordinated preparation, staff moving in every direction, Charlotte managing everything, double-checking details, wanting it perfect. It's Theo's birthday. Irina and Danny arrive as a surprise. Theo's face when he sees his friend, pure, absolute delight. They immediately run off together. In the greenhouse, Irina notices the yellow flowers and asks about them. Charlotte explains, Carol's surprise, because he knew she missed her hometown. Irina then notices the engagement ring on Charlotte's hand. Comments on it. Those blue diamonds are rare, hard to find, takes time to source. That's why he gave it to you late, Irina says. Charlotte files this away. She's been wearing the ring since he gave it to her. She told herself it was for appearances. Without it, questions would arise about their engagement. She's not examining the real reason too closely. Carolay hasn't been to the mansion since the greenhouse. She's more bothered by this than she expected. Irina notices her expression and tactfully pretends to notice something else. The birthday party proceeds. Candles blown out, presents opened. Theo unwraps Charlotte's gift and his face lights up. It's Toto, the bear from his favorite book. Carolay arrives late. He looks at Charlotte first, greets her. She greets him back and cannot meet his eyes directly for more than 2 seconds. Theo runs over and reports everything Charlotte gave him. When he opens Carol's present, it's also a Toto bear. Theo looks back and forth between the identical bears and then runs to show Danny both of them, completely satisfied. Charlotte, watching the party, should be happy. She feels lonely. She doesn't understand why she feels lonely in a room full of people she cares about. She starts walking toward the balcony for air. She loses her balance. Someone catches her waist. She looks up and finds Karile's eyes. Her face goes immediately red. He tells her she's had too much wine and should get some air. She confirms that was her plan. She tries to leave. He takes her hand. He says he'll give her the time she needs, but he lets go of her hand and promises he'll do everything within his ability. For her. He holds out his hand. She looks at it, knows what it means, takes it. They stand by the railing looking at the sea. He asks what she's thinking. She tells him about her birthday. Her mother makes her seaweed soup every year, a tradition, specific to her, warm and domestic and exactly the kind of small thing that anchors a person. She misses her mother. She thinks about the last birthday she had at home and how she didn't know it was the last one and how she would have paid more attention if she had. He goes quiet. Then he moves toward her and wraps his arms around her from behind. He doesn't speak. He just holds her. She presses her face against his arm and breathes. She wakes up in her own room and doesn't remember getting there. She opens her door and finds her family in the hallway. Her parents, her brothers, everyone, looking like they just arrived. Because they did. Carolee sent carriages for them the previous night. Had them brought here because of what she said on the balcony. Her mother takes her hand and says she was worried. Everything happened so fast, the engagement, the move, but seeing Charlotte well and happy puts those worries to rest. Charlotte looks at her parents, her brothers, the space they're filling in this enormous manner, and thinks about the person who arranged all of this without being asked, without making it into a gesture, just doing it, because she was sad. She finds Carolee in the hallway, tells him thank you, for the flowers, for her family, for all of it. He looks at her steadily, tells her he'll always do what he can, if it's for her. Then he steps closer and tells her simply, stay as long as you can. She looks at him. There's no leaving now, she thinks. Charlotte's family stays a week. The manor feels warmer than it has in years. On one of the last nights, Charlotte wakes to her door opening. Theo bounces onto her bed. He's scared of the thunder. He wants Charlotte. She settles him, lies back, and is about to sleep when Theo insists there's something at the door. A ghost. She gets up, opens it. Cariel. He was going to knock. He heard Theo ask about ghosts and decided to wait. Theo invites him in immediately, insists he stay. Cariel sits on the edge of the bed. Charlotte tries to calm Theo back to sleep. In the rearrangement of people and pillows, Theo unknowingly grabs Cariel's shirt in his sleep, pulling him off balance. Kariel ends up directly above Charlotte, faces inches apart. They both go very still. He's looking at her with an expression she doesn't have a name for. He starts to lean toward her. Then he pulls back, stands up, leaves. The door clicks shut behind him. Charlotte stares at the ceiling. She's going to be thinking about that for a very long time. Carolee sits in his office rubbing his temples. He's made himself a promise. Not like that. Not that way. Not without her being ready. His staff reports on the martial arts competition investigation. Still no leads on who engineered the attack. In a tunnel somewhere, a hooded man stamps on a servant's hand and tells him the plan shifts. Instead of waiting for Theo to leave the protected mansion, they'll send someone inside. Back to practicing. Still not working. Sir A explains the mechanic differently this time. Charlotte's power isn't standard mana. It's nullification energy, which calms other mana rather than generating magical structures. Making a protection stone from it requires different conditions than usual. Something is missing. He suggests looking through Karile's library for ancient texts on the subject. In the library, Karile finds the relevant book and hands it to her. Their hands touch, both of them go red. The first time they've been in close proximity since the greenhouse. The awkward silence is tremendous. She says she should go. He asks what the book is for. She explains she wants to make protection stones for him and Theo. The book might help. He tells her something else. Something Morris reported. Another person is looking for the suitable person. Someone with blue eyes and blonde hair. Stay away from that person if you see them, he says. Neither of them knows yet that the person is already watching. Karile receives the royal ball invitation. Everyone in the room knows it's a trap. Chase argues that Karile has to attend. Refusing would be seen as disrespect to the emperor, creating worse problems. Karile agrees. A argues they absolutely should not attend. Karile agrees to go anyway. Charlotte says she's coming. A agrees this is sensible, given that the threat likely involves magic, and Charlotte can counter it. Carolee dismisses A and Chase, and looks at Charlotte alone. Tells her the ball will be dangerous. She tells him she's going. He tells her to watch for the blue-eyed blonde man, and to be careful around someone named Penelope Owen. Charlotte goes quiet when she hears that name. In the original novel, Carile and Penelope meet at the ball. She looks at her hands, thinks about what she knows and what she doesn't know anymore. The timeline has shifted. Everything has shifted. She still doesn't know where this ends. Charlotte arrives at the palace, and the room stares at her. The whispers start immediately. Where is she from? Who is she? How did a countryside noble end up on the arm of Duke Heinz? Judgment disguised as curiosity. Speculation, wearing the mask of admiration. Carl leans toward her and tells her quietly, "Ignore it. Look at me instead." She does. The emperor arrives, delivers his welcome, and Charlotte notices something odd about his eye. Files it away. Carolee offers his hand for the dance. She takes it. They move through the ballroom, and he's exactly as capable as she'd expect. Every movement precise and deliberate. Not a single wasted step. She tells him he dances well. He says he was trained in many things he had no particular desire to learn. Then, casually, he asks how many men she's danced with before. She answers honestly. He goes very serious, tells her that from this point forward, she only dances with him. She doesn't know what to do with that sentence. Then she spots Penelope across the room, pink hair, beautiful, moving with a specific kind of intent. And near her, a blonde man with blue eyes who is looking at Charlotte, Lionel Wisner. Charlotte tells Cariel she needs to follow Penelope. He tells her to be careful. She goes. Wisner intercepts her in a corridor, introduces himself, tries to excuse herself. He stops her and asks, with a strange smile, "Are you looking for a fiancé who doesn't love you?" She goes completely still. On the balcony, Cariel looks for Charlotte and instead finds Penelope. She touches him, her hand, the bracelet with the red stone. His memory erupts. 2 boys. One crying, one comforting. He sees himself at 7, unable to control his power, past the age when control should be natural, making everyone around him afraid, full of guilt about the fear he causes. Edgar, who is his twin, tells him it's okay, sits with him, stays. He sees the day Edgar is kidnapped. The Marquis Petran, who comes from a lineage of great mages, identified a Rosato emerging in the Heinz family. He wanted Carolee gone, sent men to take him. They took Edgar instead. When Carolee found out, when the truth came through, he understood in a moment that Edgar died because of him. That Edgar existed in the wrong place at the wrong time, because Cariel existed. He burned the Petran mansion with his own hands. Every person inside. He stood outside and watched it go, and felt nothing that resembled guilt. They deserved it. Every one of them. In the present, kneeling on the palace balcony, struggling to contain the mana that's trying to detonate out of his body, Cariel feels the ring on his finger. Charlotte's mana, her light, the stone she made for him. It pulls him back from the edge. Charlotte arrives running. She finds Cariel kneeling, Penelope crumpling. She catches Penelope before she hits the ground. Feels the spell immediately. Penelope is under something, controlled, used. Charlotte removes it. Works through the magic like dismantling a lock. She staggers when it's done. More drain than expected. Carolee asks if she's okay. She tells him she's fine. Asks him to carry Penelope to the carriage. When he turns away, she opens her hand. Blood. She closes her fist, pockets the handkerchief, tells herself she'll think about this later. At home, Penelope wakes up confused, asks where she is, how she got here. They explain. She remembers getting ready for the ball, getting into Viscount Leicester's carriage. Then nothing. She starts to clutch her head, the side effects of the brainwashing, working out of her system painfully. Charlotte asks Cariel to call A later. Cariel confronts Rowandro, tells him he's been having flashbacks, asks directly about the sealed memories. Rowandro sits with this for a moment before answering. He sealed Cariel's memories on the orders of the late Duke, not Cariel, his father. The reasoning was sound at the time. Cariel's mana was going to kill him unless something interrupted the grief and guilt cycle. But I became Duke, Cariel says. Why didn't you tell me then? Rowandro doesn't have a good answer. Cariel asks his question again, the one with teeth. Who do you serve? The man who gave the order? Or me? Mourning Charlotte coughs blood into her hand. She stands in her room and stares at it, and thinks about what the priestess said about fate threads and what happens when they snap. She writes a letter to Teresa, seals it, sends it. She doesn't tell anyone else. Carolee and Charlotte visit Penelope to check on her recovery. She's doing better, settled, cared for, starting to piece together what happened. Charlotte senses something in the room that makes her feel she doesn't belong in the conversation. She ignores it, asks Penelope directly, Viscount Leicester picked you up. What can you tell us about him? Penelope explains it was a family obligation, not a relationship. Her father asked her to attend with him. Charlotte believes her. After Cariel briefly excuses himself, Charlotte tells Penelope plainly, the bracelet Leicester gave her contains hypnosis magic. That's why she can't remember parts of the evening. Someone at the ball grabbed Penelope's wrist to access the stone, used her as a mechanism. That someone is the same person who intercepted Charlotte at the ball. His name is Lionel Wisner, Charlotte says. Penelope doesn't know that name, but she remembers the wrist grab. Remembers something uncomfortable in the moment she can't fully recall. Carolee returns. Charlotte hands him the name. Carolee's assistant runs the records. Lionel Wisner, younger sister of the late Count Wisner, had relations with Marquis Petran, an illegitimate child, a family destroyed in the Purge when the truth about Edgar came out. Wisner grew up in the aftermath of everything Carolee did. He's not after Theo for random reasons. He's after Cariel through Theo. This is grief weaponized into a 20-year revenge plan. Carolee orders both Wisner and Leicester found and brought before him, regardless of circumstances. Leicester runs. The knights catch him. They bring him. He is not difficult to break. He tells them, Wisner and I don't communicate directly. I wait for him to contact me. Then, mid-sentence, as he's about to say something that matters, magic seals his mouth. He hemorrhages. He dies before the useful information escapes. Carolee is furious. So close. Charlotte is reading Toto's story to Theo late at night when a letter arrives. She reads it once. Her hands are still. She goes to Carelee's room. She tells him, the priestess visited. Charlotte can't control her power properly. Every time she uses it fully, she risks the thread snapping. He goes very still. She tells him she didn't want to be a burden. He already carries everything. She wanted to protect Theo without adding to his weight. He puts his arms around her and tells her something simple and absolute. Tell me immediately, always. That's all I want. Then he confesses in return. The Petran fire, the people he killed, the choice he made at 8 years old to avenge his brother's death by destroying an entire household. The guilt of doing it. The guilt of not feeling enough guilt. She accepts all of it. Every piece. She doesn't flinch. They look at each other, and something that's been building for months arrives at a single point. He kisses her. She kisses him back. Say my name, he says. Carile. He smiles. The kind of smile that looks like a door opening in someone who forgot doors existed. The engagement party will serve as bait. They know Wisner will come for it. He knows their pattern now. Knows they attend events even when they know the danger. Because not attending creates worse political problems. He'll expect the same logic. They plan accordingly. Charlotte tells her brothers the full story. Theo, the assassins, the ball, Wisner, everything. Jake is furious. Demands they cancel. Charlotte waits him out. He agrees to stay outside the party and cover the perimeter. Isaac agrees to the same terms. If she needs them, they'll come. But they follow her lead. The night before, the priestess appears in Charlotte's room. She warns Charlotte not to use her power at the party. Charlotte says she will if she has to. The priestess tells her to remember what's at stake. Charlotte tells her she knows exactly what's at stake. Theo, Carile, that's why she'll use it if the moment requires it. Carile is in the hallway. He hears everything. Charlotte puts on something beautiful. The maid has outdone herself. The dress, the fit, the attention to every detail. Charlotte hugs her before they leave. She thanks her. For everything. For all the days of kindness that made this feel like home when it shouldn't have. She promises to tell her the full truth after the ceremony. About who Charlotte really is, how she ended up here, everything. The maid cries a little. Charlotte walks out. Cariel is in the hallway with Theo, who is wearing his finest, and is delighted about it. Both of them go still when she appears. Cariel takes her to a secret room behind a bookshelf and shows her the emergency plan. When things go wrong, this is where she and Theo wait. Celine stays with them. The passage leads out safely if needed. Charlotte says she doesn't want to hide. He tells her he doesn't want to lose her. Come back to me, she says. I will, he says. They hug. It might be the most honest physical thing either of them has done in their lives. Guests arrive. The atmosphere is warm and elegant. People are charmed, smiling, talking about the couple in approving tones. Charlotte, standing in this space, thinks, even if it's a trap, even if we're bait, even if nothing here is fully real, this feels real to her. The ground shakes. Theo grabs her arm, wide-eyed and scared. She kneels in front of him, holds his face in her hands, tells him, stay close to me. I have you. Caril materializes beside her and tells her to take Theo to the room. Now, she starts to go. Then Lionel Wisner walks through the doors. He doesn't look afraid. He doesn't look hurried. He walks in like a man who believes he's already won. Carolee moves forward to intercept. Charlotte takes Theo to Celine. The fight begins. Wisner summons entities, phantoms that don't die when cut. Celine and A try fire. It works, but Wisner barely registers the loss. He was never afraid of losing the phantoms. With a single gesture, he separates Carolee from the space around him. Invisible, isolated. Watching his guards fall one by one and unable to reach any of them. Charlotte, inside the secret room, feels the mana shift. Recognizes it. The same signature as the martial arts competition. The same working that nearly collapsed a building. The walls of the mansion start to crack. She tells Celine, "I have to go." Celine holds her back. She looks at Celine, then she looks at Theo. "I'll be back," she says. She goes. She runs toward the fight. Toward Cariel, she can't see but can feel. His ring on her finger is warm, tracking his mana like a compass. She pours her power outward, binding Wisner's hands where she can feel them, blue light flooding the room. She finds Cariel and calls his name. "Together," she says. "We can do this together. I'll always be beside you." The darkness around him cracks. Wisner, suddenly contained, sneers about Edgar. Tries to get under Cariel's skin with what he remembers. The real twin. The right one. The one he personally bullied until the kidnapping fixed everything. He tells Cariel he reminds him of Edgar. Something in Cariel goes very quiet and very cold. He grabs Wisner by the collar. Tells him, "Don't speak of my brother." Wisner laughs. Notes that Cariel, as a Rosado, can barely produce a flicker of mana. That the seal has made him ordinary. "Kill me," Wisner says. "See if anyone can undo what I've done." Cariel drives his sword through him. No hesitation. The invisible barrier shatters. The light returns. Charlotte collapses. She wakes in her room, Carolee at her side before she finishes opening her eyes. He doesn't speak. He just pulls her against him. She holds on. He tells her everyone is safe. Her brothers, Theo, all of them. She cries into his shoulder. The priestess comes and tells him gently, she needs rest. Give her space. He goes. Teresa examines Charlotte again. This time she's looking at the fate thread with confusion on her face. It should be frayed. It should be close to breaking. After everything Charlotte pushed through it, after the full release at the engagement party, it's stronger than it was. Teresa doesn't entirely understand this. Charlotte does. She's not between two worlds anymore. The original Charlotte's soul has fully moved on. Charlotte has fully arrived. There's no tension pulling in two directions. No split between who she was and who she is here. She's not a person existing in borrowed space. She's home, the thread knows. Her brothers come back. Jake is visibly composing himself. Isaac is doing the same, but more quietly. Charlotte hugs them both. Roandro arrives at the portrait room with Cariel, Theo, and Charlotte. He places his hand against the canvas. The magic ripples. Edgar appears in the empty space. Full, solid. There. Carolee goes still. Edgar, in whatever form this is, dream, echo, something in between, looks at his twin. He tells Carolee, I don't regret it. I never regretted protecting you. Let go of the guilt. Live. Theo meets his oldest brother for the first time. They hug with the naturalness that children bring to extraordinary things. Roandro turns to Carolee. He apologizes, says he chose the wrong master for too long. He's been serving the instructions of a dead man instead of the living duke in front of him. He offers his resignation. He also informs them, Edgar has a grave. It's been hidden, invisible, existing alongside the family, but inaccessible. He'll restore it and lift the memory seal on everyone before he leaves. Then he goes. Charlotte looks at the three brothers in the portrait, Edgar now visible in his rightful place, and has an idea. Let's take a new portrait, she says. Just the three of us. Now, they dress up, they pose. The painter captures three people who have found their way to each other against every obstacle fate put in the path. At Edgar's newly visible grave, Theo introduces himself with great formality. Carolee talks to his brother, not with grief, with something quieter, relief, gratitude, the kind of peace that comes after you've stopped running from something recessed. Rest, he tells Edgar. I'll take care of them. Charlotte notices Carolee has been agitated for days, jumpy, checking things, consulting Charles about something she's not party to. Then he asks for her parents to be brought to the manor. He wants a good impression. He wants to do this right. He takes Charlotte's mother to the greenhouse. The yellow flowers, tea, foreign pastries he specifically researched. her favorites. He's been preparing. He takes Charlotte's father to the study and talks to him directly, man to man. Admits the first meeting was bad. Admits there's a reason to doubt him. Lays out his case honestly. He loves Charlotte. He wants to earn that trust properly. He's asking for permission. Charlotte's father looks at him for a long moment. Then he grants it. Carolee practically runs to find Charles. Jake and Carolee end up sparring at dawn the morning after. Because Carolee gave Jake a new sword as a gift and Jake needed to test it immediately. Isaac joins. The Baron watches from a window and finds himself revising his earlier doubts considerably. Charlotte talks to her father in the garden. He asks if she's happy. Really, truly happy. Not in the polite way, in the real way. She tells him yes. That Carolee is kind, considerate. That it started complicated but she trusts him completely now. Her father looks at her, smiles. Theo runs over and climbs into the Baron's arms without asking permission. The Baron, startled, looks down at this small person who just decided to be held, and starts laughing. The morning of the family's departure. Everyone says goodbye. Theo mopes dramatically for approximately 4 hours afterward. Charlotte promises they'll visit soon, tells him to stay healthy and play with Danny. He rallies. In the greenhouse later, Cariel appears with purpose. Charlotte follows him without knowing why. The path is lined with petals. The greenhouse doors open. More yellow flowers than she can count. The whole room full of them. Her hometown, transplanted here for her. He takes a knee. Theo bursts out of a flower pile. Say yes, Theo commands, fists up. Charlotte and Carol look at each other, start laughing. The absurdity and the beauty of it, all at once. She kisses Carol's forehead. Yes, she says. Theo cheers, dives into both of them. The three of them end up in a heap of flower petals and laughter. This is what happiness looks like. Nothing elaborate, just this. Rain the night before. The three of them end up in Theo's bed, listening to thunder. Charlotte reads the Toto story. Theo falls asleep mid-page. They dream together. A soft cemetery. Afternoon light. Edgar is there. He tells Charlotte he's relieved. Relieved she turned out to be someone good. Relieved Cariel found someone worth finding. He hugs Theo with all the warmth of an older brother who knows exactly how much time matters. He tells Cariel, let go. You're allowed to be happy now. Cariel cries. The kind of crying that's been waiting for 16 years to happen in a safe place. They wake up together, tear-streaked and smiling. Lean against each other for a while before getting up. The happiest morning of their lives, just beginning. The wedding day. Isaac holds it together. Jake does not. Charlotte's father walks her to the altar, and his hands are steady, and his eyes are not. At the end of the aisle, Carolee, standing like a man who has been waiting his entire life for this moment, and only just understood that's what he was doing. Teresa officiates. The words are said over them. The vows pass between them, and Charlotte barely hears them, because she's looking at him, and he's looking at her, and the room is very far away. They kiss. Theo cheers loudly enough to shake the windows. She was never supposed to be in this story. She was never supposed to matter to the plot. She saved one child, and that child changed everything. That's the whole of it. One decision in a forest, one moment of choosing not to walk past, and everything followed from there. Life doesn't wait until you're ready. It puts the bleeding child in your path and asks what you're made of. Charlotte answered. The rest is exactly what you just read.